What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So as you can see from today's thumbnail, we had a pretty big issue with the GMC Terrain that you guys have seen on the channel. We'll talk about it a little bit more once we go and pick this thing up, but it could have ended much worse than it actually did. So we've got my truck and trailer hooked up and ready to go. We're gonna head up there and pick this thing up. Of course, this happened to us while we were on the way to the airport to go away for a week on vacation. So we just left it up there at the airport parking. We're gonna go get it with the truck and trailer right now. So let's get through the intro, pick up the car. We'll get back here. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about what happened and what we're gonna do to fix it. Now that we've gotten through the intro and we've gotten this thing home, I didn't film much when we were loading it up because we were blocking some lanes at the parking spot at the airport. So I just wanted to get this thing on the trailer and back to the house. But now that we've got it here, we're gonna get this thing unloaded, and then I will tell you guys all about what's going on with this thing, the parts that we've got to hopefully fix it, and some potential issues that you guys should look for if you have a GMC Terrain. So let's get this thing unloaded and we will dive right in. So one of the first things that I wanna show you is how to get this thing in neutral to get it loaded on the trailer. We had to figure it out the hard way while we were at the airport parking trying to get this thing loaded up. I didn't even think about it. It is push button. So we had to do a little bit of digging to figure out how you can actually get this thing into a spot where you can roll it around and get it on a trailer or a flatbed, short of just dragging the thing. So if we take a look inside here, you guys will notice that it is the push button style. This one is a 2019. Not sure if all years are the same, but with this one, you've got your park, reverse, neutral drive, and low over there. So what we had to do was leave the battery connected, put your foot on the brake, and then hit the parking brake button right here. It'll say released, you'll hear it release, and then you've got to come over here under the hood. After you make sure your parking brake is released, you can go ahead and disconnect your battery. We just decided to go with this one. Luckily, we had a wrench in the truck because I didn't know we were gonna have to do any of this. And then once that's disconnected, not sure how well you guys are gonna be able to see it, but right down in here where that rubber hose is, if we can you push that hose off to the side a little bit? Right there where that hose is pushed off, there's a little lever right there with an arm on it, right where my light is, that you have to actually push backwards. Probably won't be able to do it on camera here, but if you push it back, that one right there, if you push it back hard enough, it'll actually go into neutral. But the fun part of this is that you actually have to physically hold that the whole time you roll the car, or it'll go back into park. So what we did was we took a socket and a little pry bar we had and just wedged it in there enough to hold it so that we didn't have to have someone standing here holding it. So getting these things into a state where you can actually roll them easily is kind of a task in itself. It's kind of a pain, honestly. So once you get that done, you can go ahead and roll this thing around freely, which is what we're gonna do right now, rolling this thing off the trailer. So now that we've gotten this thing rolled back to the spot that we're going to be working on it, let's talk a little bit about what actually happened with this thing. So last week we were on our way to the airport. We fly down to Florida every once in a while to get away for a little bit, and we were on our way there. We always take my girlfriend's car because it's just easier to park in the parking lot than my dually, and we're not going to take one of the hot rods and leave them there. So we took her car, and usually I drive anytime we're going somewhere, but of course I wanted to catch up on some things on my phone, so she decided to drive, and we were on our way there. And this is a 2019 GMC Terrain. It has right around 80,000 miles on it, and we were on the highway minding our own business, doing about 65-70 miles an hour. All of a sudden, a little message comes up on the dash, no check engine light or anything, and it just says service brake assist. So we're thinking about it for a second. We're like, that's a little weird, but whatever. I get messages on my GMC truck all the time that don't really make a difference in anything that you're doing. So as we're thinking about it and she goes to clear it, traffic up ahead of us starts coming to a stop. And like I said, we were doing right around 70 miles an hour. So she goes to hit the brakes, and we're coming up on this traffic quite fast. And I look over at her and I'm like, are you gonna stop? And she was like, they aren't working. So I just told her to stand on the brakes. So she grabbed the steering wheel and she was standing on the brakes with everything she had. And we came very close to rear-ending the SUV in front of us. And when I say very close, I mean within a couple inches, to the point where we were gonna have to swerve out of the way. So we get the car to slow down, and I told her basically just get the thing off the highway. So we get off the exit, which luckily happened to be the exit we needed to get to the airport anyways. So we get off and we limp the thing into the self-park that we were gonna be using before we went on vacation. Got it into the parking spot, and I tried messing around with it a little bit. And the brakes were pretty much, they would work, but you had to push them all the way to the floor and really stand on them. So it didn't have any power assist or anything like that. So we figured we'd leave it and I'd take care of it when we got back. So once we got back from vacation, we obviously went up there with my truck and trailer and towed this thing home. Now, within 2 minutes of doing research on this thing, I found out that pretty much all GMC Terrains with the 1.5 liter have a similar issue, or a potential to have the similar issue, because they use a cam-driven vacuum pump, which we have right here. Now, I'm gonna put some pictures up on your guys' screen because it is pretty common for these things to fail. They have some little gear teeth right here that run on the end of the camshaft, and what happens is this pump fails and those teeth break off, the metal goes through the motor and completely wipes out the camshaft. If you're lucky, not the rest of the motor. So we were hoping to not drive it and destroy this thing much worse, so we towed it home. We have a new pump and we're gonna try to slap it on there and hope for the best today. So we'll get some things out of our way. I'll show you guys the steps along the way. We'll get this thing swapped out and see if it fixes our issue. Now that we're in here, it shouldn't be too bad of a job to get done. There are a couple things we're gonna have to do to get things out of our way. We're gonna need a 10mm socket, and there is a bolt that holds this charge pipe right here, right down in there. So we'll get that popped off, then use a pick to release this clip up here that is on the throttle body holding that charge pipe, and then we can get that thing swung out of our way and pop this engine cover off after we take the oil cap off. So let's go ahead, get to work, and we'll start getting this thing apart. Set that aside. Now we can grab a 90-degree pick to get the clip off at the charge pipe. All right, like I said, you just have to pull that thing out. It doesn't come all the way out, just to about there, and then it'll release so you can pop it off of our itty bitty little throttle body. So let's go ahead, set this out of our way. Now we can go ahead and pull this engine cover off. First thing we need to do is take the oil fill cap off, set it out of our way for a second. And then if you have a bunch of debris right here, I recommend vacuuming that out quick. Ours looks pretty good, to be honest, so we're not gonna worry about it. But carefully pull up on this, just like so. Then there'll be another one right over here, if I can do this one-handed. Set this out of our way. I'm gonna throw the oil cap back on so we don't get dirt and crap back in there. You can take this foam piece out of here. Set this out of our way. I might check the spark plugs on this thing just because I know they've never been done. But now that we've got that out of our way, this charge pipe can kind of swing out of our way as well. And now we can get in there to the vacuum pump. Now we've got to get to this pump right here itself. I believe it's going to be 3 13mm bolts. Most of them you guys aren't going to be able to see. There's one right down here, then one on each side kind of coming up. So we'll get those popped out and get this pump out of here. There is a vacuum line that goes right here, and it has 2 little squeeze tabs on it. We're gonna have to squeeze them, and then we can pull this off, which we will do here in just a second. Get that out of our way. And once we get this pump off, we are really hoping that it still looks like the end of a pump. So I squeeze those, pulled up, and this thing pops right off. It's these little green tabs. I was able to just kind of squeeze one and hold the other, but if you can squeeze both, it'll pop right up out of your way. So we'll tuck that out of our way for a second, and now we can get right in here to this pump and keep our fingers crossed that this thing comes out in one piece isn't blown apart. So like I said, guys, you can't really see what I'm doing down in there, but this is the new pump, and as you can see, it comes with 1 bolt right here. Then there's another bolt here and one here. They're all 13 millimeter, so we're gonna get all 3 of those popped free, and then we can pull this pump out of our way. And like I said, fingers crossed that this looks just like this when we get the old one off of there. I'm gonna take some shop towels or some rags and just stuff them down under there. This thing's been sitting a while. We haven't started it or anything, so there shouldn't be much oil up here, but just in case, I want to try to catch it so we don't make a mess. So stuff some towels in there, pop this pump off, and hope for the best. All right, now that we got all the bolts out, I'm gonna go ahead and carefully try to pry this thing out of here. Seems like it's in there pretty tight. There it goes. Just had to pop the seal. All right, it looks like we got pretty lucky, guys. This is all in one piece, just how it should be. That's really what I wanted to see. I think something inside the pump came apart. There is some debris here and here. It's either plugged up or it came apart internally. Let me grab a paper towel real quick. See if we can't turn this thing over. Oh yeah, that's exactly what our problem is. This thing does not want to turn. We'll take this pump apart after. It turns this way, but it binds up if you try to turn it that way. So it looks like we got very lucky, guys. The pump is still in one piece right here. It didn't blow this apart. Like I said, I'll throw some pictures up on your guys' screen of what happens with these things. This whole piece will blow apart and all this metal will go through your motor. And ours feels like it was very close to doing that. We did hear a couple clunks and ticks, so I didn't want to try driving it home. That's why we went and trailered it. So if you guys lose brake assist, just get it towed or trailer it. Don't try driving it, because when this thing finally does lock up, like I said, these ears will break off, taking half of this housing with it, and it'll all go right through your motor, blow your camshaft apart, and blow this thing to pieces, and potentially destroy your whole motor. So very happy she got lucky. The pump is seized up. We'll take it apart a little later, but let's get the new one thrown on there and see if it fixes our problem. So we've got our new pump here and we're ready to slap this thing on. It's pretty self-explanatory, comes off and goes on the same exact way. The new one came with its own bolt for some reason right there, but we're gonna leave that in there to hold the gasket in place for us. We'll get it on, get that one started, get the other 3 on, and then start tightening this thing down. So you've got to get this gear to line up with the camshaft itself. So we're gonna have to turn ours a little bit because it does engage with the cam. There we go. And then just like so. And once it engages with the cam, it'll basically pop right past that oil seal into place. Then you've just got to get your bolt started. We did take some brake clean or acetone or anything like that and wipe off that area. Make sure it's free of any debris, any oils, so that the new seal can go ahead and seal it up. Now we can grab our bolts and throw them back in. So I don't have an exact torque spec for you. I usually try to put them in the videos even if I'm not using them. Best thing I could find was someone said he worked at a factory and they torque them to 8 foot-pounds, but we're just gonna go tight enough. So I did the 2 side ones and then the bottom one last. We'll just double check these, make sure they're good. Click, click, and click. All right, now we can put this thing back together. So we'll pull the little vacuum cap off. Make sure that our vacuum line doesn't have any debris or contaminants in it. It looks good. We're gonna clip that guy back on. Make sure you listen for the little distinctive click right there. Pull on it, make sure it's not going anywhere. So that's good. We can go ahead and put the charge pipe back on. That'll snap right into place, and then we can put this clip in, just like so, while pushing down, and then pull back, and it's locked right in. Once you get your charge pipe clipped back into the throttle body, don't forget your little 10mm bolt that holds this tube in place over here. We're just gonna lightly snug this. It's just a tiny little bolt going into a plastic mount, so we're just gonna snug that up just like so. And that's good to go. Let's throw our engine covers on and do the oil change. And now we can go ahead and put the cover and everything on. I think we are gonna go ahead and pull a plug though. This thing's got 80,000 miles on it. So we'll go ahead, pop those out quick, see if it needs them, and probably slap a set in it. All right guys, so we're gonna try to get this foam back in there how it was. Go something like this, I believe. I think it was something like that. See if we can get this thing back in here. Yeah, it's on there-ish. Alright, let's grab some oil and fill this thing up with oil. Now that we've got the new pump installed and our new spark plugs, I'm gonna go ahead and get under this thing and change the oil quick. Now, if you guys wanna know more about the GMC Terrain, we did a video where we installed these aftermarket but factory looking fog lights, and I have an in-depth video on doing some maintenance on this thing, oil change, air filter, things like that. So you can go back on the channel and find those if that's something you're looking for. Right now, we're just gonna go through and bang this oil change out so that we can fire this thing up and go take it for a ride before we take the old pump apart to see the damage inside of it. So when we go to start this thing up, we're gonna be listening very closely for any clunks or anything. Nothing got into the motor because, as you guys seen, luckily our pump was good, but I didn't want to start it for you guys so you could hear it because I didn't want to take the chance of blowing that pump apart. But when we parked this thing, the last time I had started it, it was making some pretty good noise, and now that we got the pump off, I'm pretty confident to say it was internal in that pump because it turns with the camshaft. So as soon as we'd start it, it would start clunking and banging and stuff. I thought it was motor. Luckily, it was just that pump. So we've got oil in it. We're finally ready to hit the push button and see if this thing fires off. Holy crap, this thing's quieter than it's been in a long time. This thing's much quieter than it's been in a long time. All right, let's shut it down. We'll go take it for a ride. I actually can't believe how much quieter the engine is. That pump must have been going for a long time because this engine's always made a little bit of noise, and I just thought it was because it was a small displacement engine. A lot of times they make a lot of little ticky-tacky, clacky noises, but it must have been that pump the whole time because now this thing's quiet as a mouse. So I'm gonna get my light out of here and we will double check the oil level and we'll go take it for a quick ride. So let's go ahead and take this thing for a little ride and make sure everything's good to go. Sorry if you guys hear the fan blowing. It is super hot here today. We got the AC bumping. So let's go ahead and take it for a ride. I can tell already this thing's much better because the brakes are actually working now. Before, when I was telling you guys about when we almost wrecked this thing, that pedal down there would literally go almost all the way to the floor, and the ABS was making all kinds of noise and the thing just didn't want to stop. You really had to put some weight behind it because we didn't have the power assist. So very sketchy. GM's known about this, I guess, for a long time. It's a TSB for almost all the Terrains with the 1.5. So in my opinion, they should have had a recall on that. It's definitely a safety issue, but what do I know? So we went ahead and got that pump taken care of, and we'll take this thing for a little ride. A lot less engine noise already. So that pump's probably been going for a while, and I thought it was just the little 4-banger clanking away. But definitely sounds a little happier. Go ahead and hop on the highway up here. Turbo's so tiny you can't even hear it if you try. But brakes seem really good, things running really good, driving good, so I think we've got this one fixed. Drive it around a little bit. I just want to make sure that it's good for her. I'll probably put some miles on it and just make sure, and then we will give it back to her. Now that we've gotten back from the test drive, I want to go ahead and zap this pump apart real quick and just see what it looks like. So we'll go ahead and take these screws out. Well, that explains it, guys. That answers all the questions right there. This thing was blown plumb apart. So now we know we were that close to having the end piece on this side come apart and go through the motor. So really glad we didn't try to drive this thing back to the house and we went and got it with the trailer. If you guys get a brake assist message, make sure you just shut the thing down, have it towed, or tow it yourself and get a pump slapped on it, because this little destruction in here and cheap little pump could have definitely cost us that motor, if not just the camshaft. So super happy that we got it apart, got it fixed for her, and now she is back to having wheels. So I'm gonna throw this pump back together, throw this thing in the garbage, and we are done with this one. So there you have it, guys. We were able to get the vacuum pump switched out on her 2019 GMC Terrain, and I have to say that this is a pretty bad design. They've had all kinds of issues with these things. If you go online and look it up real quick, you will find a ton of instances where this is happening to people. Now, the thing that I don't like about it is it doesn't throw a check engine light or anything. So when she saw the message service brake assist system and you can just hit OK and it goes away, it sounds like something you could have them check at the next oil change, or something that you shouldn't really have to worry about too much. But in our case, we lost the majority of our braking power, and it could have been very bad. You definitely could have rear-ended someone, or even worse, wrecked into a bridge abutment or a wall, anything like that coming off a highway ramp. So this could have ended much worse than it did. Luckily, we were able to get the car stopped, get it off the road, and throw it on the trailer. Now, minus the actual damage aspect of an impact, we could have caused much more damage by trying to drive this to a dealer like a lot of normal people would do. If you don't own a trailer, if the car's drivable, you're going to try to limp it to the dealer or your mechanic. So I'm glad that we decided to just park this thing and go back up the hour ride back up there with my truck and trailer to bring it home, because I'm pretty convinced that if we would have tried to drive this thing back, the pieces inside of here would have bound up and it would have locked up and caused it to shear these teeth off, which in turn would have put metal through the engine and could have easily destroyed the camshaft, if not the entire engine. So hopefully today's video could help you guys out in some way, shape, or form. If you see that service brake assist message, pull over, get the thing towed, and get it taken care of. It's not a very hard fix. Definitely something you could do at home if you have a basic set of hand tools. So as always, I appreciate you guys for checking out the channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and check us out on all of our other social media platforms: Facebook, TikTok, and Bought to Build Official on Instagram. And we will catch you on the next one.